What's good, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the WichitaPromo podcast with your host, EKM. We back at Not in Kansas Anymore Studios, and I got a very special guest in the building. Let you introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up? My name's JacobClark.
Photographer,
videographer, really anything and everything media-wise.
Definitely a big name in the city.
I appreciate that.
Myself, I've been, as EKM, I've been rapping for maybe about a year and a half now.
Okay.
I started going to Humble Greatness when I was recording, and he immediately, you were the first name that came out of his mouth.
That's awesome.
And he shoots videos himself and everything, but I'd go to videos with him and be like, yeah, man, I don't really know any other filmers in town. And he told me all the time, he's like, bro, you got to go to Jacob. Jacob is cold.
Yeah.
So I've been hearing your name for a cool year now, for real.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to finally be able to sit down with you and meet you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Shout out Angelo, for real.
For real.
I mean, I remember I was 17, 18. I don't know, I was still in high school. And I shot a music video for him way back. We were in that spiral parking garage. Just it was really big for the time, and I mean, he had dancers and everything, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's hard for sure. How did you get into videography and photography starting off?
So way back, when I was probably 14, Call of Duty was a big thing.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So I did a lot of graphics back then. Ended up working with Phase and Optic at the time. I randomly got into a lobby with one of the investors for Phase. Yeah, and I thought he was playing. He was like, "Oh yeah, I helped pay for the house, this, at the third." I didn't really think too much on it. Yeah. And then next thing I know, I'm in a Skype call with some of the head guys at Phase and did some graphics for them. So that's kind of where that started, and then doing some editing for them there.
Yeah, and if you're not a video game person, which I'm not huge, but even I know Phase is the name in that for sure.
Yeah. So it was just super random how I got in that mix, and then kind of put it on the back burner. When I was in high school, I actually wanted to go medical. And wanted to design prosthetics. That was kind of my passions then, but then I missed the math portion by 1 point to go to the medical college. And I was like, what can I do? I still want to go to do the early college stuff. And they're like, oh, we have digital media. I was like, okay, I know Photoshop. And so that's kind of how I got in the mix there. And then that's where I met Thaddeus Swift. I don't know if you know of him.
But, I know the name.
So Swift Productions. Him and I actually met at Butler while we were in high school, and then everything just kind of flourished from there. I still work with them to this day on our wedding side now. Yeah.
You mostly self-taught with it?
Yeah, so we went to Butler, but Thad and I like to joke around and talk about we didn't learn anything while we were there. We were teaching the teachers how to do stuff, and that's when him and I realized each other. We're like, okay, cool, you understand what we were doing, and then we just became friends from there. And
for sure.
Just been bouncing ideas back and forth.
Yeah. So. How did you, when you first, I guess, started doing photography and videos, how did you, network and build up, a clientele and, book videos? Did you already kind of know a lot of artists in town, or?
Not really. So, yeah, it was just, reaching out to people. Yeah. Going to their shows, doing stuff. That's how I linked up with Plainview Kit. That's Big Bro now. And I met him, so I was at... It was Steel Bar back in the day, and I was shooting. They had a wrestling event. They hired me to come out and do a recap of. It was Mick Foley was in there doing signatures or something.
Okay, yeah.
And the owner of the bar was like, "Hey, we got a rap show after this. I know you're not old enough to be in here, but we'll still get you in if you want to film it." Yeah. And that's where I met Plainview, and from there on, he always had me shooting with different people here. And then LA was a whole different beast when we moved out there. Thad went about 6 months before I did and gave me an opportunity to come live out there with him. Yeah. He was out there working with an artist named Dax. And we just started doing a lot of shoots out there. And then it was just DMing people left and right. For sure. Or I saw Woe Vicky one day. Her manager put on his story and was like, hey, we need a photographer in LA. So I hit up the stylist of the shoot and I was like, hey, I'm free tomorrow. Yeah. And that's how I got that shoot. And then from there on, her and I became friends, and she put me in a lot of different roles and whatnot out there.
For sure. So. What do you, when you first started off, was there a lot of doing shoots for free.
Oh yeah,
I would assume. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. I see a lot of like filmers in town, new filmers that like give up fast because they feel like they buy a camera and just immediately like $1,000. Well, it's like, I mean, you kind of got to build a portfolio and stuff first.
That's the main issue right now too. Is like TikTok is putting out a bad image.
Yeah,
and because TikTok's like, oh well, this is how I make $30,000 a month off of my camera, and it's cool. Like you can like that. I'm not saying that's not impossible, but what those guys aren't telling you is the $30,000 that they made this month was selling 6 of their $5,000 courses. There is, and Wichita's a hard enough market. Like when I moved back here from LA, I was trying to get the small businesses to like do social media. Yeah. And it was just not a thing. Like they weren't sure about it. And so it was just like slowly pushing on businesses to be like, hey, no, so look, this is working in LA. Yeah. Let's get this here. It just took a very long time to get that working, but for sure. Now people are understanding like, hey, social media is one of the best tools of marketing.
100%.
So
yeah. What did you notice like a big difference when you were in LA versus Wichita and just like the, I don't even know how to describe it, like the creative mindset? Like was it I don't want to say more hardworking, but like I imagine it's like quite a bit different out there. The artists are a lot more serious.
Yeah. You know? So on the artist side, definitely. Yeah. Artists are a little bit more serious. I mean, because most of the time, either you're playing with somebody that's a part of a label or somebody that's trying to be a part of a label. Obviously, you get the artists that put on a front and they're acting like they're bigger than what they are.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, you get that anywhere and everywhere. But on the like even the media people side, like so like the photographers, video guys, it's a lot more hardworking. But the major thing out there is it's more collaborative. Yeah. Like here, it's I don't know what the weird like ego or whatever it is. Like a lot of like the media people have. Sure. It's like a lot of them don't want to work. Like, I mean, shout out Dre and Troy Andrews. Those guys have like reached out and had me come out to shoots and whatnot. But there's some other people where it's just like. It's just everyone's butting heads.
Yeah, for sure. And when I put up a poll, I said this on my podcast with Janae from 316 Flavor recently. I put up a poll saying like, who do y'all want to see on my podcast? And obviously, you know, you get the big names like the XVs and the Real Goats, but the main answer that I got was everybody just telling me like, just work with other podcasts here. Yeah. And I was like, that is kind of crazy that like, that's kind of a new thing. You know, like just having you here today, like I appreciate you coming through because I do feel like there's a lot of podcasts I could hit up here in town that maybe wouldn't hit me up. Well, because it's like a weird competitive thing. And I'm like, you feel me? We'll grow together off this. Yeah, like I really don't get it.
Yeah. And that's my big thing too is like, so there's another podcast called Running the Light.
Love
the
them.
Comedians.
Yeah, big fan of their podcast.
I mean, they're friends of mine. I produce their podcast. I talk on their podcast. I'm not on camera, but I'd be talking on their podcast and like I share their stuff. We shoot in the same exact studio.
There's no competition with it. We're all in the same. I try to explain to artists all the time. It's the same way with like if an artist were to blow up right now. So like the weird competitive energy of us like artists shitting on each other all the time in town doesn't make sense because just I mentioned XV just to use him as an example. If XV dropped a #1 hit tomorrow, it's going to bring so many eyes to this city. I'm going to benefit off that just for the fact that I'm here. You know what I mean? So the competitive energy never made any sense to me.
Especially in the music industry. Like, it's such a, was it like crabs in a bucket type of mentality where it's like they don't want to see the next man win. And that's always been the downfall to Wichita, in my opinion. Like,
for sure.
You get artists like Damien. He was on a strong run, but you don't see a lot of people pushing him here locally. Like, or Kit, like he'll go on a run. There's so many artists here, like Lucid, that will go on a run, but it's just like, people will just want to shit on him on the back end. It's
for
like,
sure.
If we have that one artist blow up from here, it's gonna bring the spotlight to the city. Like, think about it. What's the biggest act that we've had within the past like 3 years within the rap scene come to Wichita?
We struggling.
See, like Mexican OT, like he's coming. Or he might have already had his show. I don't know, but
I think it's in a couple weeks. I was a little concerned even about that show because you know how Wichita is. I've been trying to tell everybody like, please buy your tickets like now because Wichita is bad about that pre-sale shit. If there's not like enough tickets sold within the first few weeks, they'll cancel the show. Like, I mean, we had I remember a few years ago, we were supposed to have at Interest Bank Arena, like Lil Baby, Moneybagg Yo, 4-2 Doug. I saw that lineup. I was like, this shit's going to sell out. Canceled it. Nothing. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and Wichita, that's like they want to see the music scene grow, but it's like they don't really want to support the music scene a whole lot. So
for sure.
It's definitely tough.
It's almost sad too that like a lot of big artists here. Like I just had Frank Sativa on.
Yeah.
Frank Sativa is an incredible artist to me. Like I hear his music and I'm mind blown. It's so fucking good. And I said to Frank Sativa, like, you are probably numbers wise like the most successful guy in Kansas right now.
Yeah.
Like the numbers are insane.
Yeah.
And when I'm asking him and he's telling me like, yeah, I got a lot of hate from Wichita. I don't get shows like that. I don't get interviewed like that. I'm like, that's fucking mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Well, and Frank, I didn't even realize he was really from here like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of low-key artists that are from here that people don't really know about. Like Logan Mize, he's a country artist.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he has songs with 82 million streams.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I was going through his numbers earlier because he's a guest that we're looking to have on here shortly.
Yeah.
But people don't realize he's from Clearwater.
Yeah.
30 minutes away.
We back. My apologies. Camera cut off real quick, but luckily I got Jacob here and he knows what he's doing, so we got it fixed. So yeah. So like we were saying, yeah, I feel like, you know, with artists like the guy you just mentioned and like Frank, when they have that big success like that, the numbers are going. It seems like everybody's listening to them outside of the city, but when I talk to them, you know, they talk about getting hate here, not getting opportunities, and it kind of bums me out just because, like, even if they did blow up now, the city never showed them any love. Why would they show love to the city?
Exactly.
So it's like, you know, I almost hate that. It's, if we actually endorsed an artist like that and they blew up, maybe they'd fucking put the city on back. Whereas like with a Frank Sativa, when he's saying he catches a lot of hate from the city, I can't expect him to shout out Wichita in an interview. Exactly. Wichita don't fuck with him.
Exactly. And that's the hard thing too, is like, well, and what you notice too is most of the artists that are blown up from Wichita, they're not rappers.
Right.
They're the alternative kids.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Tommy Newport. He was another artist from here. I mean, he's on a 21 Savage song.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's Damien, he's alternative. We had a couple metal bands that did pretty well from here. Logan Mize country. Like, it's all these other genres outside of rap.
Yeah.
And it's just mainly because, I mean, you look at our rap industry here, it's ultra competitive.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
You don't see a whole lot of people working together, whether it's, I mean, I don't understand their politics, whatever they got to do, but it's like if they would just put their head down and run on it. But also, it falls back. I can't even blame the artists half the time. Like, let the artists be the creatives themselves. Yeah. It's the guys that are trying to be managers. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that, where they're buying them streams. Like, there's so many artists back in the day that I would sit there and watch them buy streams, buy YouTube views, all this other stuff. And I'm like, hey, this doesn't help you. Like,
man, and I wish people, like, did their research on the harm that it can do to buy those bot views and shit, because and we back again. See, camera cutting off, but appreciate you for sure.
No problem.
Off camera, Jacob, you know, the camera genius just showed me how to fix it, so for sure
should fix it. We should be good
for sure. But yeah, we were just talking about you know, artists blowing up in Wichita, not getting the love they deserve type shit.
Even back on to like the buying fake engagement stuff like that. Like buying followers. That's one thing I've been preaching for years. Because don't get me wrong, in 2012, that used to work.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you used to be able to buy 1,000 followers. It puts you on an Explore page and you could blow. But nowadays, Instagram, all these other platforms are so smart when you're part of it. Like, buying followers, buying streams. Like, even Spotify now. There's a kid that I follow on Instagram, and he paid to be on a playlist, and it was one of those playlists that are buying you streams. And and that's one thing artists need to realize too, is like, if they're in your DM saying, hey bro, I like your music, let me put you on a playlist, $10, bro, they're buying you streams.
If you paying for anything, it's not real at all.
And like, he got a message from Spotify like, hey, your song is on a playlist that's getting like bought streams right now.
And you can fuck around and get your song taken down for
that. That's what they were saying. They're like, hey, if you don't figure out how to get off this playlist or whatever, like, we will take down your song. And he was just like, hey, like, I need help getting in contact with these playlist people. Like, he's trying to figure out how to get taken off this playlist. So
it can definitely become a problem. And I've tried to tell people, even on like an Instagram or a TikTok, when they get like the fake followers, they feel like they're doing something because it's like, oh, you know, I got 9,000 followers or something. Cool. but your post is still getting 10 likes.
Yeah.
So Instagram is seeing that, and they're being like, so you have all these followers, all these views, and no one's engaging.
Yep.
So it's going to throw your shit into less and less algorithms because your content looks like shit now.
Exactly.
Like, people just don't think about it. The number is a little too important to them, I feel like. The number will grow organically if you just drop good shit.
Exactly.
It really will.
And that's the hard thing, is just like getting people to understand that aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, this shit takes time. I mean,
they'll
look at artists and be like, oh, they blew up overnight. No, you haven't seen the years that they put in behind it.
Everything takes so much work and dedication. Like, even this podcast, I feel like people think what we do is like simple because we're just talking.
Yeah.
Turn on a camera and talk for an hour with no gaps. It's not so easy sometimes. And you know, as you know, you might get a guest on sometimes that can't talk for shit.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I'll have on a rapper or something and I feel like I'm talking for an hour and they're just sitting there. And I'm like,
we've had a couple where it's just been like, luckily having Hannah, my co-host, is really helpful. Because we can jump questions, like, because we try to go in like most of the time without any questions.
Yeah.
Like, we just want to be as organic as possible. But there's been times where we're sitting here asking the guests questions and we're like, yo, you're giving us one word answers. And so we're having the rapid fire stuff. But then we have guests like James Rico from the Real Goats. Yeah. And I mean, I think I maybe said 10 words the entire podcast for an hour because he just went, which was amazing. Like, hearing his story. But it's one of those things where, like, you have to book the guests, you have to get the podcast edited, you have to do the clips, you have to post them. There's a lot that goes behind a podcast, so people don't really realize. For sure. But,
and I was recording this podcast. We're on episode, I think this will be 27, if I'm not tripping. 25 of them were filmed at Humble Greatness Studios where I didn't do shit. Yeah. Like, I'll tell you, I pulled up, he hit the camera, he hit the board, I just talked and I went home. Now I actually bought the camera and you see how it goes. This is the third episode I've done on here. Camera starts shutting off and I'm like, oh shit. I don't even know anything about that. That's a whole new thing. You gotta learn all this equipment, which takes quite a bit of time as well, for sure.
And that's where, if people are interested in starting a podcast, whatever, I always tell them do it. Like, whether you start it on your phone, or you pay to go to a podcast studio. I mean, there's 2 or 3 around town,
for sure.
I got to shout out the Commerce Club for theirs, but that's where, I mean, you can hire somebody like myself that comes in and I produce podcasts for people. I have about 5 podcasts here locally that I run. Like, they show up. Dope. It's kind of like how you were at Angela's. Yeah. They just show up, I press record, and we get it off to them. But
and you do that with that Running the Light podcast, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, that's one of the podcasts I watch here in town. I want to have them on for sure.
Oh, yeah, dude, they're hilarious. They're a good time. And they've been really consistent. Like, it's been cool to watch them grow. We've done, I think we're almost on episode 20 for them, where it's every week, every Monday or Tuesday. I know that they're going to be there by themselves with the guest or whatever, and we're going to knock out an hour pod with them. And then typically right before or after theirs, we do one of our Commerce Connects ones. I've been getting into the habit of just batch recording to where we have like 3 or 4 episodes in the vault to where it's like we can just keep them rolling, because like the more and more I'm realizing with some of these like bigger people that we're having on, you have to get the podcast approved through their PR stuff like that. We have a couple guests here that like pre-warned us about, hey, we're gonna need probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get the podcast approved. So and hey, when you hear that, because I'm slowly starting to do the same thing. We're starting to batch them up, but please hit up your podcast hosts like us beforehand. Please don't hit me up like, hey man, can I get a podcast tomorrow? My album comes out in 2 days. Like, man, come on, bro. This takes, if we sit down for an hour, like this is an hour, I got to edit it for probably 30 minutes to an hour. I got to do this, and it takes time. So you definitely got to plan this shit ahead for sure. Yeah, well, that, and it's like we already have shit scheduled. I mean, I know up until like August 4th right now, like what
that's quite a ways away too.
Out. And we've been knowing that for the past, I mean, I'd say like May, like mid-May. We had it all scheduled out. We are getting them in there and recording.
That's dope.
I think we have 2 or 3 in the vault right now that it's just, we know, cool. Yeah. Every week something's coming out.
So how'd you get connected with like Commerce Club and all that?
So actually Hannah, the co-host, I did some work with her back in the day, and then she hit me up and was like, hey, I got a corporate client that's needing some work done.
Yeah.
And so I went in, met with them, and it was just like apartment tours, like general event coverage, stuff like that. Finished that, or we started that contract, and then the Commerce Club opened up. So it's a Commerce Club and the National. They're in the same building. One's an apartment, one's the co-working space.
Yeah.
So I handled their content for both those properties, and then the owners of that property have another apartment complex that I do their work for as well. But yeah, we just randomly were like, hey, we have this podcast studio that is downstairs, so we might as well start a podcast. That's kind of Hannah and I were just like, all right, let's just.
It's a really nice looking setup too.
Dude, I love it. We're actually doing some renovations today down there. At least for our podcast, we're gonna change it up a little bit just so not every single podcast looks the same.
Yeah,
because that's the issue we're running into right now is we have, like I said, 4 or 5 podcasts that run out of there that it's the same camera setup, it's the same lights. So we're working on making it easier for people to change stuff up. For sure.
How did you meet Hannah?
So through Festive ICT, so they throw all the events, or not all of them, but a majority of the events in the city, like Taco Fest, Sneaker Fest, stuff like that. I've been doing their content for about 3 years now, and Hannah was just a guest at a Sneaker Fest, and I did some photos, I think, for her there, and then we just kind of grew from there.
Yeah. Now, y'all are definitely like a good match for the podcast. Y'all, like, your energy goes together well. You bounce off of each other very well in the conversation. There's a lot of, I feel like it's kind of hard to find that sometimes, to find like a good co-host where you vibe together, every conversation's fluid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
and it's been like cool to have the co-host aspect. Yeah. Because at first I was like, man, like now I got to juggle her schedule and the guests. Like we got to really figure everything out. But I mean, luckily she works for herself as well, so we can always try to figure out like schedules and whatnot. But
man, trying to listen to like famous podcasts too, like if there's a Joe Rogan where it's like one dude talking to a guest, it'd be blowing my mind when there's like no silence.
Bro,
like
4 hours.
Yeah, that because there's times where we're just doing a 30-minute podcast and you might answer with something I didn't expect, and then I'm sitting there like, oh shit, what do I say next? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. The co-host thing, I would love to have a co-host on here eventually just to kind of help out with that for like when we said you have those guests with one-word answers and it's like, all right, we got to make a conversation out of something.
Yeah, and that's one thing I like about like the Running the Light podcast.
Yeah.
With them, if they have a guest that's not really interesting,
they're funny as hell anyway.
You'll watch them just like shove the guest to the side and then it's just them two. And it's so funny because I'm just, like half the time I'm like, yo, like y'all got a guest, you know?
Yeah,
like, they're just sitting there. But yeah, no, I definitely love those guys. It's a good time.
Yeah, you got any podcasts so far that you've done that are like your favorite? Any guests?
So I mean, personally, obviously, like James Rico. Yeah, I've been watching him for years, and then I've worked with him on set a couple different times, and it was just like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And just his whole like story was really cool to learn. Man, like a lot of them, like Ivan, Nana, Eric.
Yeah.
Like they all have said some like really, like almost like profound stuff.
Yeah,
it's just
for
like,
sure.
Oh shit! Like I didn't think about it. Like Nana, he brought up like the blue ocean theory.
Yeah.
Eric talked about like a darkroom theory and stuff like that. Where I was like, okay, cool. Like, hearing different things from other people. I'm excited for a couple of guests that we have lined up. That it's gonna be, I feel like, a lot of the same stuff as well. We have looking like Mayor Wu. We're working on getting her secured right now. Yeah. And then a couple other like kids that are larger on the TikTok side. But we're working on doing virtual as well. So I want to be able to kind of break out of the studio and have guests from all over. That's something I really want to do, as well as going to them. So I have a buddy in New Jersey. He's a bigger music artist out there. Yeah. And we're talking about flying out to New Jersey, working with him. Yeah, that's dope. So for sure. Yeah. What do you, I guess to go back on, I got a couple more questions for your videos. To go back on that, first off, what do you use to edit mostly? So switch to DaVinci Resolve.
Okay. See, I don't even know anything about that.
So DaVinci Resolve, I mean, now that I'm out of the music video space, like as much as I am, like I had a talk with Kit one day, and we were just like, yo, like I'm not a music video editor.
Yeah.
Like I can shoot them. Like I'm really like cinematic in that way.
Yeah.
And my music videos, if I'm to go out and shoot one and it'd be like a personal project, I want it to be more movie-esque.
Yeah.
I don't care for all the flashy effects. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I don't want to have to learn all that stuff. So I'm very much like a Da Vinci guy. Like I really love my color grading there. And it's just what I need. Like Premiere's great for those music video editors that are wanting to do like all the different effects and the 3D stuff, but I definitely Da Vinci's where it's at for me, just because it's a little bit more simple.
So one of the reasons I really like your Commerce Connects podcast, you guys are insanely consistent with the clips, which takes a lot of work too. People don't realize that's a whole nother job, is selecting those and getting those recorded. Yeah. When it comes to like those clips, I really always appreciate you guys are not at all like afraid to give game on there. Like you'll talk about like how to grow your brand, your podcast, your this and that on there. I feel like a lot of people are really afraid to give game like that in the city.
Yeah, bro. And that's like the whole reason we started that podcast was to be able to sit there and give that game. Yeah. And just talk to people and be like, hey, like we're not afraid to
I feel like especially with like camera work and stuff like that too, like you know what I'm saying, just right here off camera you were giving me advice on like settings to put this on. You can give people game all you want on the cameras and the music videos, they can't just copy your sauce. Like you have your own style. Everybody does.
And that's the thing like we realized too, is I can sit here and tell someone the exact path that I went.
It doesn't mean they can do it.
It's like, man, sure. Like I got lucky where my friend offered me to live on his couch when I was in LA, and like I started crafting my stuff all the way there. Yeah. But it's like I can tell you how to do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, it takes a person to actually do it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of really talented filmers here in town. You talk about, we have Angelo, we have Troy, we have Drake Meyer. Like we have all these people, and you give them all the same camera, they're going to come out with completely different videos. Yeah. It makes no difference. Yeah. So,
and then like for the clips, like you talk about being ultra consistent, like that's something I've just learned from the past of like, you have to be able to post every single day.
For sure.
Multiple times a day at that sometimes. So you'll see there's days where on the Commerce Connects page, I'm posting 4 times a day. Yeah. And just to get the content out there, there's a AI tool that I love using called Opus, and they're the ones that they're the ones that generate our clips.
I've never checked out Opus, but I've thought about getting it myself. So
I paid for the upfront year, and like that's how I'm able to stay that consistent with generating the clips. And then editing the podcast. There's a thing called Autopod, and it will automatically cut your 3-cam podcast down. And so I don't have to sit there and choose each camera every time. And I mean, it takes about like 4 or 5 minutes to set it up, and then once it runs through, I mean, I can cut down a podcast in about 20 minutes now. Like no matter the length of it. Obviously, there's certain podcasts where it's like, for instance, this. Your camera shut off.
That one's gonna take a couple.
Like you wouldn't be able to run that through Autopod like that.
For sure.
Because there's issues, but at the end of the day, it's not hard to go through, fix that, and just keep running with it. So
man, something like that Opus Clips too is so useful because people don't realize just those take time. Like when if you're making like 4 clips a day, you gotta record or cut each of those clips, edit them. I know you guys often like you'll literally like put your words, like what you're saying on the screen, like that type of shit takes time.
Opus do it. Yeah, it literally does it. Like I can sit there and upload a full podcast and it'll spit out about 30 clips.
Man, that's
granted,
hard.
I have to go through, and it takes probably an hour and a half to like tailor them and
for sure,
add stuff to the beginning because it's not perfect. Like if there was a perfect podcast editor, I mean, everyone would be a famous podcaster.
For sure.
Opus definitely gets us to where we need to be on it. That's where I helped with the Running the Light guys.
For sure.
Opus, stuff like that. So
what I guess I saw one clip earlier where you were giving game, and you were talking about how cell phones, like your smartphones, are like a really underrated tool for filming.
100%.
So I guess speak on that a little bit, because I do think that's something I hear a lot from people that want to film, want to get into photography. They feel like they have to go buy the Sony expensive ass camera to start, and they don't understand you can start on anything.
So I guess that clip mainly was talking about for businesses. And like the phone gives a different feel.
Yeah, like, for sure.
It's funny when I go into a corporate clients and like I go to do some shoot with them, and I pull out my phone because there's certain videos that I want it to feel more organic. Yeah. So I'm gonna shoot it on my phone versus shooting it on a camera. Like, there's more often than not, if you're scrolling on Instagram and you see like the same ad but one shot on a phone, one shot on a camera, you're gonna probably swipe up on the phone one just because it feels more organic. That's kind of where my thought process is on that. But even like for the videographers and stuff like that want to do music videos, using your phone is not a bad way to start.
Yeah, for sure.
But I will say, don't go watch a Cole Bennett video where it says shot on iPhone. Because they've rigged that iPhone up like it is a cinema camera. They're using external lenses, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't have that be your hopes of like, okay, this is what my music video is going to look like because it's shot on iPhone.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can get the principles. There's an app on the phone called the Blackmagic Capture, something like that, where you can go through and adjust all your camera settings like you can on an actual camera.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even know that.
If you want to just learn settings and the basics of a camera, which I honestly think you should before you even buy a camera. Yeah. That's another issue is people get a camera and instantly be like, oh, I'm a cameraman.
Yeah, they think that's it. Yeah,
it's like sure. I've talked to some local guys on shoots and I'm like, yo, your settings are just wrong.
Yeah,
like, you're shooting overexposed or your white balance off, or there's so many different things, but it's just like the basics. I mean, if you get an engineer in the room and they're trying to mix a song and they're just using like stock plugins and it's just sounding off or like the auto tune's out of key.
Yeah, for sure.
It's something that you can audibly hear. So it's the same thing with video. It's like I can visually tell when somebody's settings are wrong. Yeah. And I've had to pull back a lot more recently because I used to just message people. Like if I saw a video and I was like, yo, this could be fixed. I used to hit people up and be like, hey man, like what were your settings? And like I would just try to help people. Then I realized like that just wasn't the way. Like
I feel you.
I was just trying to help, but people would just be like, oh no, you kind of being an asshole right now. And
I'm certain people ain't gonna get that. But I definitely I appreciate that type of shit because like I was saying earlier with your clips, I appreciate somebody who can give game to somebody who's like in a similar lane because we're not, like we said, it's not competition. We're doing completely different things. Yeah. So like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people, when we sit here doing a podcast and the camera cuts off, there could have been a lot of people that like, instead of getting up and fixing the camera for me, they'd have just been like, figure it out. Yeah. You know? And it's like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Like I said, you can give game. You're not going to give away your sauce. At the end of the day, you know what you know from years of experience. Exactly. Like your videos look the way they do because of your personal taste and your experience through the years. Yeah. So I guess one other thing I wanted to ask too is how do you kind of develop your own look with like the pictures and videos? Do you take inspiration from like anything specific? Like, do you watch movies and take inspiration?
No, so that's the funny thing. I don't watch movies. Like, it's rare. Like, I watch TV shows. I'm a big TV show guy. But there's been so many times where someone's like, oh, have you seen this clip? Like, I'm trying to have it look like this from this movie. And I'm like, I haven't seen it. Yeah. There's so many different movies like Star Wars. I haven't seen Harry Potter. Like the big cult classics, I probably haven't seen it. Yeah. And so a lot of my stuff is honestly, whether it's just other creatives on Instagram or just how I think things should look. Yeah. Like there's been a lot of times where when I first started off, I was obsessed with like the super realism look. So where it's like I always wanted my pictures to look better than like how I'd perceive an eye would see something. Yeah. And so it was just like ultra crisp, contrasty. That's how I started. And then, of course, you just go through waves of different looks, stuff like that. Everyone has their orange and teal days where it's like you want your shadows to be more blue and your highlights a little bit more orange. Like, you have those days. But everyone, I think... It's hard to say. It's like, I'm not inspired from anywhere, but also because you are. I mean, whether you think about it or not. But I think Instagram, there's a lot of different creators on there that I see, and I'm like, okay, cool. I like your style. Let's see how I can adapt it, or mainly it's like the lighting. There's a lot of different creators have different lighting setups, and I'm always trying to like just mimic in my own sense of learning how to do that. Because if I have a client come to me and they're like, hey, I like the lighting of this. No, let's figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think is like the importance of lighting? Because I feel like that's something people sleep on a lot too. Lighting
and audio is more important than your camera. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can have your lighting right and the audio sounding good, you can shoot it on an iPhone 4. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of the times that's the most slept on thing. Lighting is very, very important just because, I mean, it sets the mood. It really does on like how your colors are going to play, how the shadows are going to fall on people's faces. Lighting, and then, like I said, audio as well. If you don't have good audio, it's hard for people to pay attention, especially like think about a podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Bro, that's their main thing is you got people listening to this.
Yeah, that's definitely... I feel like on a podcast too, maybe I'm a weirdo. I actually watch podcasts.
Yeah.
Like I'll sit there and like look at the screen, and I feel like that's probably a rare thing. Most people are probably just listening at work. So
it depends. Mic is everything. Like there's a couple podcasts I will like try to watch just because I love the way that they're produced.
Yeah.
Something like a Joe Rogan, I don't care to watch.
That's just in a headphone.
I mean, because with how long they are too, it's like that's like watching a movie.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's a guy, Sean Ryan. He's a military guy.
Yeah.
But his podcast is very, like, it's just shot very well.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson, his were always shot really well. So those are ones that's like, cool, I can appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you see, the first time I actually think I met you in person was that YBG fashion show recently?
Yes.
How did you get involved in that? Was that just through Commerce Connects because it was in there? Or
no,
Commerce
so
Club?
I've been working with Mark for some time.
Yeah.
We did some stuff through Shop and Grub. I went and did a brand story video on him. So
I need to have him in here eventually.
Yeah, no,
I know Hippie back there be going to him too. Got Hippie K behind the camera. Man, shout out YBG, man. He really got some of my favorite clothes in the city.
Yeah. So getting connected with him was just general networking at events and whatnot. And then with his fashion show, when we opened the Commerce Club, he came through to like just kind of check it out, and he was like, man, like I really want to do my fashion show here. And Hannah and I looked at him like, all right, let's get it done.
It fit perfect too.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking before I pulled up, because one thing I want to eventually do is throw shows through Wichita Promo, and I'm still just trying to kind of figure out the game behind all of that. And when I thought of a fashion show, like I was trying to think in my head, like, that's so different. Like, I don't know how the hell you stage that. I don't know how you find the models. I don't know how you find the artists. And that really went perfect in the sense that, like, everything just kind of fit together. Like, the vibe all fit. The building looked right for the place. Like, them walking up those stairs set and around the little, like, it just worked perfect. The walk was good. The models were perfect. The clothing was fire. The music fit the vibe perfect. Having, like, Frank Sativa, I think it was MX versus the Railroad Industry was in there. Like the music and everything fit that vibe perfect, and it was I got a lot of game just from watching that, just seeing how that was organized.
And it was different. Like I didn't really know, like when he was like, because when you hear fashion show too, a lot of people think high fashion.
Yeah.
Like they're thinking suits, ties, like weird,
for sure,
other type of stuff. But when it was like him wanting to do it, I was always rooting because I'm like, dude, I know it's gonna be different. And then when the city popped out the way they did, I was just like, wow.
Yeah, they showed the fuck up. It was crazy.
I mean, there was people outside the windows watching because we hit capacity.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so, that night was insane. Yeah, shout out Mark. YBG,
for sure.
They're different.
Incredible talent in that building today, that day too. I was blown away. Just I'm a quiet person. I don't really be reaching out to people much. I don't say shit. I was just standing in the room with my girl looking around like, holy shit. It's like, that's Frank Sativa. There goes DeAdrian. There goes the football. I was like, holy shit. It's like everybody's in here. That was a hell of an event for sure.
He did his thing with getting them, like, all the influencers and everything. He really showed, like, even other event companies, like, hey, just get as many people here as possible. Like, you just got to bring out all the big names. So.
I know he got another fashion show coming up soon too. I heard him say that on a podcast recently. Might have been your podcast.
Yeah, he has the one at Wichita Art Museum.
Yeah, for sure. Soon. Yeah.
And they just dropped the announcement video.
Yeah.
This morning, I want to say.
You got any merch for, like, your stuff?
Yeah, so actually this here.
Yeah, that's hard. I was wondering if that was you.
Yeah. So we just came out with 3 designs. We have about 10 in the vault. Really just wanted to have stuff that I could wear. That's been my biggest thing was I just want to have stuff that I can wear around.
Yeah.
Shout out K&D Apparel. They're the people that we go through. They're local.
Yeah.
Really high quality stuff. We're working on today or tomorrow getting the website fully wrapped up so people can go on there and order. We're gonna do pre-orders on the shirts. So
hell yeah. When that comes through, definitely send me that link.
Yeah,
for sure.
Got you.
Yeah. So I guess the only thing I really still have to ask, I like to end off every episode. Anybody from Wichita, if you could shout out any Wichita spots that you fuck with, that could be food, clothes, tattoos, haircut, literally anything.
All right, let's just see.
Yeah.
So, food. Ooh, that's a hard one. Where did we just go the other day? Oh, it's a new spot, Larcher's. Larcher's
okay.
Market. It's Douglas Hillside area, close to Belmont. Crazy coffee breakfast spot. Obviously clothing, you gotta hit up Knockout, YBG.
Yeah.
Tattoos, Tatted by Toby. There's a lot of different people that like. Wichita's full of creatives. Yeah, there's a whole lot of cool shit here. So.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I appreciate you for coming on. Appreciate you for answering that question, for real. Because I say it all the time, man. I try to ask that damn near every episode, and probably half of the people I've asked that are from here are like, I don't really go nowhere.
Man,
like, what do you mean?
And there's
you
so
don't
many
eat?
Other spots that, like, off the top of my head, it's a hard one to hit. Because there's, I mean, I could think of for everything, like barbershops. You got Prime Time or Buckets. Like, there's so many, like, amazing spots here. Like, within like every industry. I mean, recording studios. You got, like, you guys here. Humble Greatness, Parallel Studios.
We have crazy talent in this city. We really do. Like, in every lane. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, handful of shout-outs, like, I think Plainview Kit. I mean, bro really put me up and got me into places. Christian Simmons, he's the engineer that we have over at Parallel. Just so many different people that it's like helped me get to where I am today. So
for sure.
That's one thing I love about the city. Like, people always talk about how they want to move out of Wichita, this, that, they're nah. Like, I did the move. It was cool. Lived out in LA for 2.5 years, but now we're back here for a reason. I always kind of, I feel it and I don't at the same time, you know. Like I said, we got Hippie K behind the camera over here. My guy Hippie be he out touring and shit right now, so I've been going to Houston and shit with him once a month. Every time I'm out there, I'm like, damn, I want to move to Houston. But then I come back and, you know, there's still that reminder of, like, I understand Wichita's not as big, so there's not the same type of opportunities and shit. We could be the ones to build that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a cool thing to be like, we're the people who made Wichita. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was my big thing when I decided to go into the commercial market rather than music videos here. Was like, it was so hard to get people to, like, let me in to film and all this other stuff. But now it's like, as it's growing more and more, and people are calling like, "Hey, can you do this or that for our restaurant?" Or I do a lot in the real estate industry here. So it's growing, and that's where I'm like, I'm cool to stay. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I don't think I got no other questions. I appreciate you for coming on, for sure.
Problem.
This is an episode I've been wanting to knock out for a really long time, so I'm glad I finally got you in here. So with that being said, anything else you want to say to the people at all?
No. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you coming on. That was another episode of the WichitaPromo podcast. Appreciate y'all for watching.